Mlanjeni Nduma, and I am technically a griot when I'm here at the African American Museum. Mainly as a griot, we travel around telling stories and tales. And for myself, I do it in a form of East African theater, which is called Mungamano. Mungamano involves storytelling, music, magical illusions, puppets or masks, dance, and it's very interactive with the audience. So as in our traditional theater, you don't just sit and watch the theater, you're a part of the theater. And that's an intimate part of African culture. When you go to African theater, then you learn how interactive it is. For African Americans, you see the sense of interaction even in something as small as a movie theater. Because when African Americans go to the theater, they like to talk. They talk to the theater. They talk to the screen. They talk to each other. That's African culture. That's what Mungamano is. That you're talking to the participants on the stage and you're talking to each other. Actually, there's two sets of tales. We have our folk tales. The folk tales that I tell are basically East African. And then there are the history tales. And the history tales, which are the main tales that I tell, encompass all of Africa and all of the diaspora, everybody. The reactions that I get from the children and adults that are watching, it's always a joy to see because they are actually very enthused about it. Because the way that the theater works, as I said, first you don't see a lot of puppet shows in the United States anyway. It's not really a big art here, other than Muppets and movies, television, but in terms of live theater, you rarely see puppets. And then when you add the Mungamano element, the puppets are not telling stories to themselves, because in Western theater, you sit and you watch. But Mungamano is very interactive, so you hear the puppets come and they start talking, and they're talking to the children, they're talking to the adults, so everybody begins to see them as alive, and they interact with them, which makes me happy because it's a reminder of our past, because puppets are masked. And one of the things that always peeves me is when you walk around and you see people hanging masks on walls. You see our traditional mask hanging on the wall, and we don't hang our masks on walls. Masks are put away because they're alive. So for me, a puppet, it would be like hanging a puppet up. It's like you don't hang puppets up, you put them away. And then they're alive when they come on your hand. It's a hand mask. I don't know if being a griot is a part of something that somebody wakes up and decides to do. I don't know. For myself, it was not. Now, I grew up in the political struggle of African people. So, as I was growing up, even though puppets and storytelling was a hobby, but we wanted scientists and engineers. So I actually went to school for science. Earth science is what I was actually majoring in. Then becoming a griot happened because of the political struggle of African Americans. Because when I was in college, African Americans were forming independent schools. And I was a part of that. So we built an independent school. I was teaching science. But in the course of the day, everyone would gather around and I would end up telling stories. So from there, I became the head griot of the school.